My name is Bernas, and I am a high school educator and administrator, and I'm just thrilled to be able to talk about educational technology because really I consider myself being a teacher as part of my identity. And tonight I would like to explore the idea of education, innovation, and how having an openness to fail and learn is really what drives change. So this is my story, our story, the story of our district implementing a one-to-one technology program. I'm going to go back to the fall of 2010. And I was giving my first workshop in the district about technology and using something called Twitter in the classroom. You know Twitter. Back in 2010, it was a fairly new concept, and some teachers were trying to use it in their classroom. And some of them were just using it for kind of a professional development, following people that covered topics relative to what they taught. So I'm very excited. It's my first workshop, and I'm in a computer lab at the time. And it is packed with teachers from across our district. We have 4 high schools in our district. And at the time, I have a couple of administrators stroll into the room, and I wave to them, one of which is our superintendent. And also, as I look up at my screen with my Twitter account, I have a friend sitting in the front row. And she looks over at me, and she's kind of pointing at the screen and waving. And I'm like, oh yeah, hi, how you doing today? No, she's like, no. You know, she's pointing to the screen, and so I look, and someone that I follow on Twitter, in that moment, obviously was hacked, and there was a post about a part of a female's body part. Now, this wasn't a biology lesson, so I was like, oh boy, scroll up and away from that. And whew, I was hoping that our superintendent didn't see it, that the teachers didn't see it, and I think I was okay, because I continued with the workshop. And so in that moment, I'm thinking, okay, this is a great idea. I'm trying to show how great technology is, and I have someone who hacks an account. So right now, you would be wondering, why do we want to use all this technology? How does it benefit teachers, and how does it help students? So fast forward to the fall of 2015, and our district embarks on the huge task of becoming a one-to-one iPad district. And I was fortunate enough to be a part of it in the beginning of it, the middle of it, and then this year, 2018-2019 school year, we're lucky, and every student in our district now has a device in their hands. So our teachers and students have had an openness to fail and then learn from the failure. And our teachers every day try to bring the world to our students, and they teach them to communicate, collaborate, create, and develop critical thinking skills. I'm lucky to work with creative and dynamic teachers on a daily basis. Many of our teachers will try and fail, and try and fail again. And through the failure, they will reflect, and then they will go ahead and they will learn, grow, and modify the lesson to help our students. So our story is filled with pitfalls and also with great innovation, and we are asking the question, like, how do we get here? And how's it helping students, and where do we go from here? So it's not really the new big thing that creates this success. It's often the constant repetition and the daily successes. And creating a one-to-one learning environment makes the question is really, how are these devices helping us transform teaching and learning? So all of us in this room have experienced transformational learning way before an iPad existed, right? But how did that happen? And why did that happen? Well, it happened because the teacher worked to see the learning from the student's, perspective. So here are some students in our district sharing how technology has helped them.
Well, it really helps me a lot with my math class because all my life I've been really bad at math, and my math teachers are the ones that usually post their assignments online, and I have a really bad memory. So having assignments online, it's like you can never lose it.
So I can look up information real quick, especially Spanish. I can look translation really quick. After I type about what I need to type, because I don't have a computer at home. So
assignments and getting help with assignments also.
So our students, I don't know what's happening, but I'll just talk. Oh, here, it's in and out. Our students each have their own view of how technology helps them. And basically, all the highlights are great, but what really created the culture shift were all the small things, the small daily accomplishments, and the ability for everyone to embrace the change, even with the uncertainty. So sometimes, a teacher knows using an app will not work exactly as planned. There will be some hiccups, but they move forward anyway, and they work with the student, and they problem solve in the moment. And that teaches the students a certain type of resiliency. And the other idea is that the teachers were willing to be vulnerable in front of the students and vulnerable in front of other coworkers. And moving forward, again, even if a lesson didn't go exactly as planned, by using these new devices. And there is a teacher who is sharing his experience with this.
One of the things we realized early on when we started doing the iPads in class was that while the student, they knew how to use some basic technology, they had no understanding of what to do when things didn't work. There was no sense of, I can't get this app to download, I can't connect to the Wi-Fi, all those sorts of problems, and they were like, there would be a giving up. It would be, I'm done, I don't know what to do next. So we could recognize the problem that sometimes the solutions aren't quite so obvious. We need to reset things, we need to figure out how to use apps. And it was more about the process of learning something new as opposed to just, here, fix this for me. My response usually was, let's figure out why it's not working. Let's try the things we know and read the directions and see what we can do with it. Students just wanted everything automatically to start working, and it never does. So it's nice when we could say, let's make the process of learning something new what we are focusing on in class.
So Mr. Fitch explains that if students see us willing to try and fail and learn, then they'll develop that similar resiliency. So technology is awesome, and I really, really love it. But it is truly the teachers behind the technology, using it intentionally, that helps our students. And this is explained by Mrs. Bogard.
One of the things I like about using the iPad is that it has changed the way the classroom feels and functions. So it's no longer about the physical space, and it's more about the idea that learning can happen anywhere. So if the student physically is not able to be in the classroom, they can learn from home. They can interact with others via Skype, via FaceTime, via other platforms, and talk to experts and resources outside of the classroom to use the classroom. And I think it's transformed the space, which makes me need to reflect on how to use the classroom. Does the classroom have to be the four walls? And I'm learning more and more that it doesn't.
So Mrs. Bogard reveals to us how using the technology has collapsed the four walls of her classroom, and her students will even consult with experts to help with their lessons. So it's the design of the lesson and the passion of the educator that emboldens the user, and it pushes the user. And this concept is explored with we hear from Mrs. Baftieri-Balaji.
Well, I think some of the major ways that personally for me, as a foreign language teacher, it has really allowed my students to connect with the world. If they don't have a chance to go to another country, there's ways that they can take virtual tours of places, they can actually interact through their iPad with different people, different speakers of different places that we're studying, and I think it just brings the world to them. For myself, as a teacher, I would say one of the best ways that it has helped me is with pacing. Students can kind of individually work, and if they need something in the target language repeated, they have the chance to replay it with their iPad, whether it's an audio recording or something that we're listening to. I think that's the way that it's transformed teaching and learning the most is as far as pacing.
Mrs. Baftieri-Balaji explains how her students connect to the world using technology, and if they're struggling with a concept, they could go back to a recording and relearn something. So if the canvas is our student body and the paintbrush is technology, how do you create, innovate, and make something unique in your classroom? Mr. Matlon explains his insights.
personally think by doing this, all right, not only when the students are talking and they're using like the Seesaw app and things like that for blogging, but they communicate with each other that way. I mean, if we're calling, you know, this new generation lack of communicators, I disagree with that, because they can talk, communicate, they can answer questions, they can make comments, and that's in fact, we're in the middle of doing that right now on an assignment, what is the American dream, in my personal finance class. So the follow-up to this activity is for them to have, you know, this online blog that they're going to use and communicate back and forth, whereas I don't necessarily think that you're going to get that same communication if you just randomly ask that question, or if you're not going to get the full effect of it by them writing a paragraph or doing a PowerPoint or a Google slide presentation. Thank you, Vern.
Mr. Matlon explained how his students are able to connect and be more confident by using the app Seesaw. So innovation in our schools has allowed for more connection, student-to-student connection, student-to-teacher connection, and teacher-to-parent connection. And with that, as we continue to evolve our educational system, it is the ability to fail and then recreate from the failure a new foundation for this generation of learners. So progress and change do not happen overnight. It has taken 4 years to cultivate a one-to-one learning environment in all of our schools. And I'm confident that our teachers and teachers everywhere will work to transform our classrooms. I'm also confident that the students of the iGen will lead the way. Thank you.